Throw the thing out a little bit. So Carson Beck looked good in this one.
For sure. There you go. Your Georgia minute. But, I mean, if Georgia takes care of business in the Florida game and Tennessee takes care of business against Kentucky, is this going to be the biggest Tennessee-Georgia game of all time?
Are you overlooking UT Martin this week, sir? I mean, come on now. Yeah, I think it would be. I think the last time that Georgia tore down the goalpost was back in 2000, beating Tennessee between the hedges. Because I think Georgia had lost like 10 straight to Tennessee at that point. And so, yeah, I think I was trying to go back just period, like the biggest games ever in Sanford Stadium history. Like, I mean, the blackout in 2008 that Georgia fans don't want to remember versus Alabama. I think Georgia was number 3 or 4. Alabama was number like 7 or 8. And I think the game where Kevin Butler, either 1981, 1982 versus Clemson, hit that like 60-yarder to win it. I want to say that was a top 5 matchup, and you're talking early 80s at that point. So in my lifetime of being a fan, I can't ever remember a top 3 matchup in Sanford Stadium with Georgia being number 1 or Georgia being number 3. Like, I don't know. I'd have to go back to maybe LSU 2004 was a pretty highly ranked game the year after they lost the national won the national championship. But yeah, I'd have to go back and look. Well, I got a few weeks, so do some research on that for you. But yeah, it'll be the biggest game in Sanford Stadium that I can remember. And I just want Georgia fans to get off of Twitter. I was on the side of the game time conversation when it came to the Atlanta Braves. I thought the Atlanta Braves got absolutely hosed. Home field advantage in the NLDS, and they get 2 afternoon weekday games, while the Phillies over here getting 4:30 on a Friday. That's basically a week. You get an early weekend start at 4:30 on a Friday, and then a Saturday grinds my gears. So I was on board with that argument. But I'm seeing Georgia fans like, oh, if this Tennessee game isn't a night game, it'll just be a travesty, blah, blah, blah. We don't get any night games. Like so. And I did see some stats that Georgia apparently since 2005 has gotten like way less night games than any other program in the SEC. Like it was like LSU had the most, I want to say, with like 58 since 2000 in conference play. And then the second least was Florida with like 33, and Georgia had 16. So that was like a huge number. But I digress. November 5th, 3:30 slot, like that's like the greatest college football like slot ever. Like that, it's you don't have to wait all day for it. It starts in the afternoon. By halftime, it's a night game. Like it's the greatest. Like I don't know why why we're besmirching the 3:30 CBS slot all of a sudden. Like I feel like that is college football prime time. So it's always nice to get more night games, but this one specifically, like no, I don't want to wait around all day. 3:30 is perfect. That's why I've always loved the Georgia Florida game. How it's like it's always second half is always a night game. It's just around late October, November is when it starts to look like that.
I mean, I don't even want to guess what the tickets are going to go for UGA, Tennessee. But I think about it, and I'm like, is there a path to this being a number 1 versus number 2 matchup, Matt Green? There is, because Ohio State, do you know where they go in just a couple weeks, sir?
They go Penn State?
They do go to Penn State on October 29th. We know the Buckeyes in Happy Valley have had some problems there. The Nittany Lions a little beat up, a little bruised after getting run all over by Michigan on Saturday, so we'll get into that in a second. But there's a possibility. I would circle that one because there is a distinct possibility Georgia and Tennessee are 1-2 in the AP poll. Not to jinx it. Let me knock on some wood here. But when we talk about just one of the biggest SEC games of all time, I think this game has it all. The amount of big-time recruits that will be on the field for this one, too. I mean, goodness gracious. I really can't fathom. We talked about Bama and Tennessee and what that was and how big it was for this program. I mean, Tennessee, Georgia might be bigger. I think beating Alabama meant more and will mean more for Tennessee fans just because of just the long rivalry with with Alabama and just the dominance of 15 years and what they've done to the sport. And just getting over the Saban hump was just monumental. So I think Alabama will mean more this year. Even if you had to pick between which game, like if Tennessee won either one, which one would mean more to fans? I think winning, especially at Neyland, like it's just different when you carry the goalposts out of the building, and it's just this whole fan experience that would not be the case.
Smoking stogies.
Yeah, like it's just a different experience altogether. But I don't know. I'm very, very much excited because I think there's a strong possibility that is the case. But you should be excited, Matt Green. The rest of the way, if you're a dog fan, I think you've got to be pumped because you don't have to just mail in your Saturdays anymore. So if you're a dog fan and have anything else planned for the rest of this college football season, you planned wrong because you should have looked at the calendar before the year and you were like, honey, we got to do whatever you want to do with the kids, with vacation, weddings, whatever you got to do. Up until the end of October, I'm open. Like, we can figure stuff out. Like, we're going to be all right. But after October, what is it, October 29th and onward?
Yeah.
We're booked because you got Florida, you got Kentucky, you got Mississippi State, and you got Tennessee over a month stretch, man. Like, that is some big time action with Mississippi State and Kentucky both being on the road. So, fun time for Georgia fans because I think they've been kind of bored. Not to speak for everybody, but it seems like the people I've talked to on Twitter are pretty bored with the current state of affairs for the Dogs.
Yeah, they have had a lot of just opponents that you knew they were going to dominate before the game started. But looking back at the Georgia-Tennessee rivalry, you got to go back to 2005 is the last time it was a top 10 matchup. That was in Knoxville. Georgia was number 5, Tennessee was number 8. DJ Shockley, Thomas Flowers had the big punt return. I remember at the for a touchdown in that one. But
have they ever been 1-2? I would doubt it.
No, and then
right?
you go back to 98. Georgia was number 7 and Tennessee was number 4. That was actually in Athens, and Tennessee won 22-3. So yeah, I mean, you go. Those are really like the only two top 10 matchups between both. Like, there's a 3-11 one year, but yeah, 3-14 back in 2020. Tennessee got up to 14 with that Jarrett Guarantano team somehow. But yeah, so it's exciting couple weeks coming up. I would never in my lifetime as a Georgia fan think that the Florida game could be a trap game that you overlook ahead of the Tennessee game. So with just all the fanfare that goes into the Florida game and just what that rivalry means to Georgia, and specifically Kirby Smart, like, it feels like Steve Spurrier, like, because of his college career, like, really cared about that Georgia game, like, more than anybody. Like, it's even when he was at South Carolina, it seemed like Steve Spurrier just legitimately hated Georgia. I feel like Kirby Smart seems to have that same, like, feel of, like, he feels exactly the way the fan base does about Florida. So I don't think there's a chance Georgia can overlook it.
And I don't think they will. I don't think it's the case. But also, every Tennessee fan is going to be rooting hardcore for the Dogs in the Florida game because we both know that the Dogs are not losing back-to-back to Florida and Tennessee this year. So Georgia will be there will be a lot of orange cheering for the red and black in a couple weeks.
And so Kentucky, is that in Knoxville?
That is in Knoxville. Okay. Under the lights, it looks like. It's going to be dark mode. I think Tennessee's wearing black that night for spooky season.
Spooky season.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's right for Halloween, 29th. I think that might be the thing going forward. And you will appreciate this, Matt Green. So it seems like, I think it was Austin Price, VolQuest on Twitter, who mentioned this, where I think there's like some sort of understanding that Tennessee's going to wear the orange and white in the classics for the rivalry games. So whether it's Florida or Bama, I don't know who else that would maybe Vanderbilt, I guess. They'll be wearing the traditional uniforms. Like, those are locked in. And then they'll pull out the smoky grays for like a Mizzou or something in the black uniforms against South Carolina's or the Kentucky's of the world, because those aren't real rivals, considering that South Carolina, I don't know if you saw today, the number 1 player in the state just committed to the Tennessee Volunteers, the 2024 class. Hate to see it.
Taking it hard.
Hate to see it. But, Shane Beamer, co-coach of the year of 2021 in the SEC with Mr. Josh Heupel. That banner will fly forever. Matt Green, your Green Line stat of the weekend is what, my friend?
My Green Line stat of the week. You may have caught this one on, I'm not sure if it was on the broadcast, but I heard this somewhere. The last time that Alabama allowed 50-plus points. Do you know when that was, sir?
I don't think Saban's ever given it up, right?
It was 1907 to Sewanee, University of the South. Dropped a 50 burger on the Crimson Tide that day. And then you go back, the last time Nick Saban team allowed 50-plus points. You got to go back to 1996. The number 1 ranked Cornhuskers absolutely dominated the Michigan State Spartans. And then the most that an Alabama Saban team has given up, it was 45 in the Sugar Bowl to Oklahoma, the 2014 Sugar Bowl, but 2013 season. And then 44 in the national title game a couple years ago to Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. So most a Alabama Saban team has given up ever. 52-49 Volunteers.
What did I say on the podcast over the weekend? I just want to look. I'm not one to do victory laps, but I have said all summer leading into this year, offense, offense, offense. And that if Tennessee's offense was in the top 10 again in points per game, I didn't see a path for them not winning 10 games this year. They were the only Power 5 team not to do it a year ago.